Here we're going to introduce Jerusalem artichokes to a food forest area. By the way, this is a demonstration area that shows you black locust and how to manage them and actually turn their propensity to grow everywhere into a valuable resource as you're establishing a forest area. So this is Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. Let's take a quick look. In this video, you're going to learn 3 valuable ways to turn even poor, degraded land into a valuable food forest. So again, this is an area where there are black locusts. That's these tall trees here. And these trees go like crazy. If you mow them over, they will come back with a vengeance. And what I've done essentially is I've pollarded the tree. That means I cut all the side branches off, and then I leave the top in the first year. Second year, I cut all the side branches off. And again, we're trying to get it to be a long, straight stalk like the ones up the hill here, okay? So that we can get some shade. Because when I'm out here in the heat and sweating, sometimes I like to sit down and take a chill. And so these trees provide a little bit of shade. But what you'll notice is there's a number of persimmon trees coming up in the same area. Some of them are bigger than others. And instead of trying to dig these trees out, because when you dig them out, they'll multiply, we are actually coaching a single branch of the tree. So you see those nasty little spikes on it. We coach a single trunk or multiple trunks of the tree. See, that one has side branches that need to be cut off. And we start planting other things around them. So what we're going to end up doing is out-competing the black locust. So we'll end up with one giant stiff stalk, but the other fruit trees will actually form a canopy over them, because once these are about a little bit above your head, you can start cutting off all the branches at the top once a year, and it'll kind of bush out on the top. But here's my point. We want to grow things that are going to take as much nutrient out of the soil as possible, because black locust is nitrogen fixing. It's taking nitrogen out of the atmosphere, putting it in the soil. So if we have things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, all these ground crops, these are Jerusalem artichoke. If we put them in the ground where we're both catching runoff nutrient, because we do have our animal waste here, so chicken manures, old plant pot materials, bedding. If any of that runs off, it's going to run off down this hill into the food forest, where it'll get sucked up by the Jerusalem artichoke, of course. Now, the Jerusalem artichoke is going to be ready in about 2 years. Those plants are going to grow out. We're going to let them die. They're going to let them grow out again. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, we need food right now. Why are you planting things that are available in 2 years? Well, here's my take at it. If you're hungry today and you need food, you're going to be more hungry in 2 years. So why not get something of growing today that you can eat immediately, and something you can grow that you can eat in a year, and something you can grow you can eat in 2 years. So these persimmon trees, and you can kind of see where they're located. We select the best one. We cut away the others. I put a stake next to the one that gets to stay. And then we nursery up that persimmon. That persimmon is going to be 5 to 10 years before it fruits. But again, halfway along the way, we're going to have the Jerusalem artichoke. Now, there's also strawberries out here on the ground as a ground cover. You can see the strawberry right here as a ground cover. It will require a little bit of maintenance because we got these weeds and stuff. But again, these weeds can get chopped and dropped, while we're preferring the persimmons, which is another one right here. And there's another over there. And there's another over there. And we're going to introduce figs and a bunch of other trees. So we're going to end up with a forest-like system, a density of trees that are being kind of pioneered by these black locusts, which tend to be a problem. A lot of these locust trees spread too quickly. And so you can see what we did to this one. Do you see how we have a single trunk? Now, it'll still bush out around the bottom, but we cut those off once a year. We have that single trunk, and once it gets to a certain height, we will pollard, meaning cut the top out of it, and allow it to grow out as much of this biomass and chop and drop as possible. So these leaves are going to end up getting cut off and fall down here and feed the soil. Now, the persimmons will eventually be taller than the black locust. And what we know from a forest is that the black locusts over there in the woods that are in the understory have no spikes on them, and they don't spread. Again, it's a pioneer plant. It's a nitrogen fixing plant. It's the start of a forest, and that's essentially what we're doing here. So I'm going to put in these Jerusalem artichokes, but also have sweet potatoes and a bunch of other plants. I don't really worry about mowing in here. I would like to throw some wood chips down as we start favoring more of these persimmons. And there will be a point where some of these persimmons will need to be dug up because they'll be too crowded. And that's why we have another orchard area out there. And we have other areas to move plants to. But again, I'm going to be careful not to step on my strawberries. Everything's kind of geometrically aligned on contour. But again, all this extra mass will get cut off and feed the soil. And then the sweet potatoes, strawberries, other types of trees, all these cover crops and understory plants will start filling in the space and eventually choke out the locusts. Now, if we're fortunate enough, the locusts will grow a nice, strong stem. And when that gets about 4 inches in diameter, then we'll have a fence post. But I really am not sure that we're going to get there with this because these trees will probably die out sooner than later. Once we've disturbed the soil so many times, we've added so many other competition, and then we shade the plants out. Another thing we can do too is, like with the sweet potato leaves and things, is let those leaves climb up into the trees. And we can also use different vining plants like the Arctic kiwi. And so that'll choke out the tree as well. So there are still little stems of plants growing on the ground like this. But again, you can get these out young. These will come out. See, you just pull them out when they're young. But once they start getting a root system, they are such a pain. They are such a pain. But again, that's why we have a system in place for getting something more desirable growing, which will then push out the things that are less desirable. And that's kind of a lesson for life. You want to focus on accentuate the positive, focus on the positive, fill your life with positive, beneficial things, and you won't have any time to do those things that are not beneficial. So get out in your garden, get off the YouTubes, get out there and start growing. Get out there and start seeing the function of nature, enhancing that function in nature, working with nature, and getting the results of abundance. There's a reason these trees grow the way they do. They grow to feed the soil so that other trees can grow. They're the pioneer plants. Nitrogen-fixing trees feed the soil so that other trees can eventually dominate and overcome and just rule the land. And then also the nitrogen-fixing trees will punish you for cutting all the trees down because previously to doing this, these trees were everywhere. They were just like every 2 feet there was a spiky bush trying to protect the soil. We added cover crop, we added other plants, and then I used pruning and kind of training the tree in order to get access here. I don't know if you saw in the old videos, but you could not stand where I'm standing right now because there were too many of these locusts in here trying to recover this soil. So we heard the call and we're working with nature. I'm going to add the Jerusalem artichoke. I'm adding, today I'm about wrapped up, but we're going to add a bunch of other stuff here over time, including sweet potatoes and other fruit trees to get the abundance that we're looking for, and you can do it too. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead here at the Sustainable Homestead Institute in Ridgeway, Virginia, doing some volunteer time, investing in nature. And by the way, if you contact me at the website, www.prosperityhomestead.org, and go to the contact page, I can get you a list of activities and events that are available, as well as additional training materials specific to topics that you're interested in so that you can grow this kind of abundance. I'll see you in the next video.